So I'd like to welcome you all to the last session of the day or of the event. We're pretty late, so I will keep it pretty short, and I still have technical difficulties because that's my laptop, and obviously it's not the one connected to the beamer, and it didn't like the beamer. So I try to manage differently. I think you know my name, Marcel Kilgus. I'm some sort of major in computer science, diploma in Mathematics. I work for the Festo company, but also under my own label, still software engineering. So let's start. Agenda is something about myself, QPC, the history of QPC, how it's developed, some technology stuff, and SMSQ, and yes, that's about it. Some of the slides I did this morning, so it's all a bit rushed. Okay. Alfred, QPC, as you probably all know, the first software-only QL emulator for PCs. QXL was, I think, already in existence, but no software-only solution. That was partly because only at that time the PCs got powerful enough to really do a software emulation. So that was about the time of the 486, so with 33 megahertz. I'm also now the main developer of SMSQ after Tony quit. Apart from that, I'm also the maintainer of QPC1, QPC2, Easy Pointer, and whatever else somebody has given up on. Well, I'm still actually a software developer, not a PowerPoint man, so the slides will be not really interesting, and I'm not really used to public speaking, which is the next point. But in the end, you always get what you pay for. So, timeline of QPC. 1997, not QPC, but I was born, so for the mathematicians among you, I'm 13. 1986, I started with ZX 8 Basic. About 1988, I finally got my first QL. In 1993, I got 486, and with that, the idea of emulating the QL on the PC was born for me. 1995, the first beta was shown at a QL meeting. 96, the real, only the official QPC1 went on sale. 1999, QPC1, the Windows version, was finally released, and 2002, QPC1 version 3 sees the light. So that's still the current version. Also, it's now at 3.34. It's still the current release 3. How did this look like? Like this. Yeah. Picture also to protect the innocent. So, why did I do QPC? Two reasons. I loved my QL really very much and felt a bit guilty for switching to a PC. But the PC had 60 million colors instead of 4, so it was a switch I was willing to do in the end. And the second reason, also a big one, is somebody said I couldn't do it. And that's always something that irks me and always a good motivational factor. The QPC beta, that one was never released officially. It was really a project I did in my childhood for myself, and I didn't really expect anybody to be really interested in it. But I still took it along to a meeting, and the version back then did really emulate QL hardware. Not SMSQ, nothing. It ran unpatched ROMs. Mainly Minerva I used because it just was better. Actually, in the end, people were so excited that they even buy the beta version, which was buggy and didn't run very well. But they said, take my money, which was for somebody 14 or something was a big deal. So they paid 100 Deutschmarks back then, just to get the beta. And I had to limit it to 5 persons because I said I don't want to owe so much money, or the obligation to finish the project would be too high if I took it for more people. So now follows the QPC beta demonstration, which would be very easy if my laptop would be, were connected to the beamer. I'll try something else. I now have a remote connection to my laptop. And if I find the mouse pointer somewhere, or rather I just use it from here. So that's actual version not many people have ever seen before. I know the refresh rate works a bit.
No, you got the spacing drop. You didn't get it off in the directory. So no, you crossed it.
Okay, that's the start screen. It's not much different from the official QPC 1 version. Does anybody have an idea what inspired the design of the start screen?
Looks like
You? I played a lot of Doom back then. And that's pretty similar to the start screen of the Doom 3D shooter. Okay, let it rip. So, I even inserted some advertising back then. Back then I didn't know that Gamma is more advanced than Beta. I wanted to say an Alpha version because it was really, really the wrong way around. But still, as you can see, it boots Minerva. I even adapted a floppy drive so it could read floppies and stuff. It's really not finished in any way, but it is run already. So that was what I presented in Munich, basically. Most applications at that point were already working well. Okay. Back to the presentation, I hope. Wait. Yes. Okay. Moving right along. Switch to SMSQ. Emulating native hardware, especially when you see that the emulator was 486 processes, is really expensive because you have on every data access you have to check is it for a specific hardware and emulate the correct reactions to that. So I was planning to do a specially adapted operating system for my emulator even back then. And briefly we considered using Minerva because I've met Tony at the meeting and we chatted a bit. But in the end, Jochen Hassner, my friend, convinced me to try for SMSQ, which I didn't have. I mean, the only native hardware I had ever was an unexpanded or expanded well, but no gold card, nothing that could run SMSQ. So we decided for that, and my friend Jochen contacted Jochen Matz for me, whom I didn't know back then, to check if I could somehow get SMSQ. And actually, in December '95, I got the first source code disk from Tony, which back then really traveled by snail mail from France to Jochen and finally to me. Only in February '96 the sources were complete because I was the first one, I think, to ever get the SMSQ source code, and he had to rip it out of his hard disk. So he missed many parts. So I always said, oh, now this is missing and now that doesn't work. And that went for 2 or 3 months before I really could compile my own version. QPC 1, 96, died 99. As everybody knows, runs with a specially adapted version as SMSQ. This version doesn't run on any other platform. All drivers are specifically adapted to just talk to SMSQ, QPC 1 directly, which is simply much faster. So the QPC 1 that was eventually released doesn't emulate any native hardware anymore, except to decrease the screen, because the screen memory organization had to be compatible, otherwise most programs wouldn't work anymore. It was back then written in 100% assembler code, Intel assembler, and in the end it was about 15,000 lines. And something I'm pretty proud about, in the 13 years following the release of QPC 1, only 4 bugs turned out in the emulation, and that was, considering how difficult it is to emulate such a processor, that was pretty good. And the fourth one was even discovered just by chance, not really by actually running it, but just by looking at the source code. So, I'd like to do is just to prove it works. Okay. Slightly different screen, but still recognizable the same face. But one can already notice a much bigger screen layout, because I don't emulate the QL screen with 520 to 256 anymore, which it can still do, but in most times one would use something else. And apart from that, all hard drive access like QXL implemented. So it was really like the QXL, but without the hardware. And back then, a lot slower. But, well, time worked for me, so QXL is out of the race now with today's PCs.
It should be dramatically fast if you take a Pentium machine, a fast one, and put it under DOS. Because at that time we had 486 or Pentium 1.
DOS, today's processors are not really suited anymore.
No, not today's, but maybe a 3, 4, 5 years old Pentium 4.
Yes, but you won't be, I don't think you would be faster than the native Windows version.
Okay.
That's already pretty well. Especially as the emulation core was improved in the meantime, so the Windows version has a better core implemented. Okay, QPC 2, version 1. QPC 1 needed a specially booted DOS. You even had to configure it specially to make it work, which was several design decisions that again had to do with speed, because otherwise I really had to get everything out of the message I had. But back then it wasn't a problem. It was the time of Windows 3.01. Everybody used DOS anyway, and booting to DOS was not a big deal. But when Windows 95, of course, became more prevalent, shouts for a native version became much louder, and in the end I gave in, bought two books, one about Windows programming, one about DirectX programming, and went on my way, and finally in '99 QPC 2 version 1 was released. Other than the DOS version, half of the version was now written in C. I've never written anything in C before, but it was not that difficult, and the rest is still assembler, so the 6 to 8K core was basically the same, and